All right, Dan, I have a special gift for you. I think you know what it's going to be because there's only about 1,000 copies left of the first printing, first edition of Psychological Nudity, Savage Radio Stories. Dan, can you name one story in that book? I'm sorry to put you on the spot that you haven't read that you'd love to read if you get a copy.
Oh, God, I don't know, Michael. I don't...
All right, Dan, I'm going to send it to you because I know you want to read The Nympho in Alley Pond Park.
Well, I know Alley Pond Park, so yeah, that's the one.
Or how about When Pasta Was Spaghetti, if you don't want to read the other one. Dan, I'm going to send you that book because I know you're going to love it. My son said to me that he read the book and he learned things about me he didn't even know. He said, parents only tell you what they want you to hear. He said, I had no idea these things happened to my father. He told one of his girlfriends.
When you read those segments on the air, it's just incredible. It comes so much from your heart, and anybody who knows you knows that you are the same on the air as you are in person, and it's such a gift to us that you're here.
That's very sweet. Somebody said to me yesterday, Savage, you're like the grandfather of America. I didn't realize I'm that old. Then he goes on to say, oh, yeah, and my grandfather has Alzheimer's now, and you remind me of him. That was some compliment, huh, Dan?
Well, he was trying. It's a liberal.
He didn't mean anything by. But he raised an interesting issue, Dan, which comes back again to the fairness doctrine and freedom of speech. When idiots like Charles Schumer, who had the nerve to say that pornography and conservative speech is the same, did you hear that soundbite we once played, Dan, last week?
No, but it sounds like Schumer.
Dan, you won't believe this, guys. Could you pull that up? Isn't Charles Schumer a Harvard graduate?
Schumer is basically trying to appeal to the old-time New York big mouths. We like to get tough and swagger around, but he goes off the deep end. He's no fun anymore. He says such crazy things.
But, Dan, you guys have it, yes or no? Okay, when we find it, Dan, I'm going to play it. Wait, we have another shocker. Dianne Feinstein is quoted as saying, when we had a fairness doctrine, she said, things were more correct in the media. Speech was more correct. I got chills up my spine as to how blind this woman really is, Dan, that she doesn't even understand what she's saying, because if she did, she'd understand that it's right out of communist China. Speech was more correct when we had a fairness doctrine? Isn't that the purpose of the First Amendment, to have incorrect speech permitted in the public sphere?
Thank goodness, thank God that we have somebody like Judge Ilston, a liberal appointed by Clinton, to protect us, because we really do.
Here it goes. Play it now.
It's not that this is like printing a broadside. You would never say anyone who wanted to hire a printing press or go on a computer has to have any view. Do you think we should allow people to put pornography on the air? Absolutely not, particularly on television and radio.
So he's comparing conservative speech, conservative talk, with pornography. Dan, is that about as imbalanced as something you've ever heard?
Well, actually, I think I've heard that kind of speech when I look back on the history of Mussolini and Hitler, where they espouse liberal views and then twist it to say that the government then controls, for the good of everybody, any view that comes out.
Oh, my God. Daniel, you're the kind of liberal who can save this country.
Michael, I learned
Look, Dan, there's going to have to be a coalition of genuine liberals like you, as opposed to the phonies who are using the liberal label, but they're really fascists. And conservatives like me, we have to join together before we lose this country's basic freedoms.
Well, I agree, but I do want to point out that what I just said, I learned originally by listening to your show, and then I read a book on that topic. So I learned from listening to you.
You learned from listening to me? Well, maybe you learned how to make a meatball from visiting with me. I don't know. Dan, again, I just wanted to say thank you. It's been a long road, and I know you put a lot of work into this. I was shocked at how much work you had to put into the when they sued me for money. I was stunned. And then you had a 23-page brief you had to file? How long was that?
Oh, God. Well, I mean, first of all, the lawsuit, I don't know if you have the lawsuit on your website, but it was over 120 pages.
Right.
And the briefs were 30 pages. It was a massive amount of work, but what we uncovered is that the Holy Land Foundation and CAIR are really hand in hand. And let me make a point that we haven't brought up. Right now, the Holy Land Foundation, the charitable arm of Hamas in America, is in trial in Texas, and the jury is deliberating, and they could be convicted of crimes relating to funding Hamas using U.S. money. And guess who their number one spokesman is in defense of this group? The head.
It has to be who is it? CAIR?
Yeah, CAIR's Kahil Meek, who's the head of the Hungry for Justice Coalition, as the Associated Press reports it. That is, I'm telling you, he's actually a board member of CAIR. That's not been reported by the.
So they're all interlocked in one big group, And we, the people, are facing a new age in America with a changing president, a changing Congress, a changing court system. The one hope we have, Dan, as I say, is that liberals like you will remember that the First Amendment was written to protect offensive speech and offensive writings, not to protect polite speech and polite writings, because we wouldn't need a First Amendment for polite speech, would we?
That's right. And your expression...
Dan, I'll tell you what. Not only do I want to thank you, and I hope that this ends here and now, but again, I want to invite you for a glass of wine when I come back, and hopefully we'll get together.
That's great, Michael. Thank you.
Dan Horowitz, thanks very much. It's a great day for freedom. It's 47 minutes in. New York City, Jane, WOR, go ahead, please. You're on the Savage Nation.
Michael, first, I just want to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being out there. You have conservative women right here in Long Island, New York, that listen to you faithfully, and we are so emotional because we hear your voice, and we just wish you could hear us back. I
wish to God I could sit in the living room with even a small group like yours and see the reactions to my show. Radio hosts work in the dark. We work alone. And it's a very odd feeling it's like being a coal miner in many ways. We don't even know who our audience is. I mean, we hear that it's millions, but we don't know who they are. But it's women like you, Jane, who make this worthwhile, because we're not all dead. We're not all brain dead. We're not corpses. We are alert. We're alive. We love America. We love the First Amendment. We love democracy. And we don't like tyrants like Jerry Brown, Schwarzenegger, and a mayor to say, take your vote and shove it. Jane?
Absolutely.
Now, Jane, before we go on, yes or no, should I go on Larry King?
Michael, I think your voice is heard everywhere, and I am concerned, and I have reservations that this could possibly be a setup for you. When I heard you say the people that were going to be on that show, Joy Behar for one, I don't think she deserves your presence.